Fury Pro Grappling 12 is going on this weekend. Brady versus Martinez. Brady's looking to keep extending that nice grappling career he's got going on to the side of his UFC career, alongside other good UFC vets like Alexandr Romanov and Pat Sabatini. Throughout this video, we'll be going over my picks for the entire main card, and I will be identifying who I think is maybe a good low-risk favorite that you could bet on, and then maybe some emotional underdogs that if you wanted to go through it and give them some money, maybe you can do it. Moving on. So first we got Melendez versus Quinn. We're going Melendez. I've seen both footage of these guys, and although I think Quinn has a very simple yet effective game, Melendez is probably just going to be the younger guy, even though he has a lot of grappling losses on his record. Recently, his most recent is a win. It was against a 30-year-old, and that just gives me pause when it's Melendez going against a 42-year-old Quinn, even though I'm saying this, if you want to go against a pick, maybe an emotional little underdog for Quinn because he does have such a effective, simple game that it could just work out with that game plan. So moving on, we have Best versus Mir. Yes, that is the daughter of the Frank Mir. Of course, we are going with Mir, and even though it's a negative 500, who knows? Maybe you can find some other odds that look better than this. From what I've recently found when recording this, but you got to go with Mir. It's obvious. When you got that sort of credential background, you don't go against that. Maybe we can get that into a parlay later. Next, we're going into Nkuta versus Palmer. We got to go with Nkuta, but I'm telling you, these guys are both surging up their MMA career, looking to be something in the future. And Nkuta is something like 7-0, 8-0, really, really skilled in grappling and in MMA. I gotta go with him, giving him the edge. I wouldn't bet on this fight because of how close it is, but it is a nice underdog pick. I think you can go with it, and the way he controls people from side control, he uses that wedge near the hip just perfectly, and the way he transitions into the crucifix is just smoother than what I've seen. So we're definitely going with Kuta there. Next, Sabatini versus Fake. Look, we planted some guy in here. I'm not to be rude, I wasn't impressed with what I saw, and Sabatini is going to be the obvious pick here. No, nothing needs to be said. He's looking to also try to continue this career of grappling he's got going on to the side. Next, we got Willie versus Pfeiffer. Of course, you got to go with Pfeiffer here. Although I was entertained by what I saw from Wiley, I just think Pfeiffer's got the experience, been in there with a lot of good grapplers at this point, although not having to grapple much. I'm sure he did a lot of preparation for those things, and I got to go with this. The athleticism, the experience, we got to go with Pfeiffer here. Kochel, Reynolds. Now, this is actually a very interesting matchup. I think Reynolds is actually pretty skilled, but what I saw from him going against a guy with a similar style to Kochel, the guy went in with a more tactical approach, and Kochel is kind of the opposite of that, whereas Reynolds beat that guy. Kochel is that same style of grappling, the leg lock, going in there, trying to get under, use his hips, but he goes in more like an Andrew Tackett pace, and I think that's just going to overwhelm Reynolds, and Kochel is going to come out on top here as a big favorite. Next, we got LaFragola versus Pontano. You got to go with LaFragola. I've seen almost nothing on Pontano. I was having so much trouble. I finally found something, but it just didn't give me any reason to go against the experience that LaFragola has gone through, and this is also a CFFC guy. They're probably going to want to lift him up a bit, so that's, I think, a safe bet to go on right there. All right, moving on, Mazza versus Keck. We're going with Mazza. It's a very similar situation of the grappling difference between these two. Mazza is just a big favorite compared to Keck. I don't see. I hope these are the odds, because that is pretty wild to get two of those back-to-back on the women's grappling. But we're moving on to Romanov versus Kappa. You got to go with Romanov. Once Romanov gets on top of you, even though it's lumbering, it's slow, it's nothing to be impressed about. When he gets on top, he knows how to work. And it is like a polar bear just destroying a poor sea lion or whatever the fuck they eat. Seal or something. Downey versus Petroski. We're going with Downey. Look, if you guys did not see his CJI performance, although Luke Rockhold is a clown, Downey has put on very impressive performances recently. And Petroski's grappling is no joke. I'm actually surprised he's the favorite. Downey is an excellent wrestler. Petroski is in his own, and he's also got a great strength factor to help match Downey. But Downey's pace is going to be insane against Petroski, and he's been in there with some of the best grapplers out there at this point, and I think that experience is going to carry him through. And Petroski kind of like riding a very weird momentum right now because of the recent MMA fights, but we'll see if he can come back. But I'm going to definitely go with Downey here. Next, the main event, Brady versus Martinez. Martinez is actually incredibly skilled. I love watching his matches, but you got to go with Brady here. The way he is able to, oh yeah, and also emotional underdog if you don't get that Downey pick. If you don't go with Brady, I mean, the way he's able to just neutralize a guard and do exactly what you need to do to stay in the safest spaces and then retreat when you know you shouldn't be there and just immediately go to disengaging, coming back in. That's just going to be able to be too much for a not in his prime anymore Martinez, which is sad to say. And I don't know if there's a secret no heel hook rule for MMA fighters on them, but it's going to be very similar to that Craig Jones situation where Brady was, just stalling out everything he had, and that was very impressive. But these are my picks for Fury Pro Grappling. Let me know what I got wrong, what you think I should have done better. I mean, look, I did what I could on some of these guys that I've not heard before. I've even thought about doing the prelims, but that would have been an insane amount of work. But let me know what I could have done better. And our parlay for the card at the end, Mir, Kochel, Downey. Those three, I think, are going to get you a beautiful little parlay. Downey is, I cannot believe you have to get him at an underdog. Downey at an underdog is a great pick. Do not doubt that. Downey at an underdog.